Yo, what's going on, people? It's Monday, and we're back on your screens. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, man, what's good? What's going on? Don't hit that dial, don't hit that keyboard, and leave that mouse where it is, because you know what it is. It's your boy Dan Lewis, and this is On the Bywire, giving you the best and the most finest of independent media news. There is available on the intranet. Yeah, I don't even know what it's called these days. On the wire. You know what I mean? That's what we are. We are on the Bywire. Don't know. And if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the follow button. You know what it is. Come on, man. Support the thing. Help me, help you, bring you that news you know you can trust. It is what it is, man. And if you ain't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, fam. You know what it's good for you. Like, we've got all kinds of stuff going on there. And obviously, you get a notification every day that I'm online, Monday to Thursday at 9 p.m. Especially on a Monday when we've got the queen of the session. It is Klaudia Fior. She will be joining us to give us her top picks of today's independent media news. Now, today has been marked as Freedom Day by some. Crazy scenes have been seen in London where lockdown protesters, so the people who protested about having to lockdown, have been protesting today on the same day that they don't have to be in lockdown. And I don't get it, but it's happened. On top of that as well, as if, you know, things are hot outside. The weather is vibes in. It is very warm, and people just want to enjoy themselves. They want to relax. These lot have been getting into beef with the police, man. What? Come on, just leave the police. I'm not a fan of the police, but come on, of all the days to have beef with the police, today is not the day. Go get yourself a Guinness or I don't know, an iced coffee or something, and chill out and relax, fam. Just enjoy the vibe. It's, you know, we're meant to be freedom, whatever you think about it. Just go to a park, sit in a park and enjoy the nice weather. Why you gotta be outside Parliament beefing with the police about things that ain't even affecting you no more? Trust me, it's just unbelievable. Like, the more I see all this stuff that's going on in our country, the more I just want to stay at home voluntarily. Like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna stay at yard for a long time, you know, the way these men are going on. Really, just stay classy, man. Stay classy, people. Give it that absolute classiness. You get me? Now, other people are calling today the purge. Obviously, they don't think it's a good idea that we come out of the lockdown, or that we have the releasing or easing of all of these rules. Many young people have been celebrating. They went to the clubs last night, and at midnight there was little videos of people celebrating, jumping up and down. It was kind of nice, you know, as someone who is past his 20s. I don't really want to be baiting my age these days now, but I saw some of them. They look so young and they look so innocent, and I thought to myself, do you know what? Yeah, some of them are like 20-year-olds or 19-year-olds that have never been to a club before. They've gone through life without actually going into a club and dancing, and that is a beautiful feeling when you can share that moment of dancing. I just pray you're all wearing masks and not spreading no COVIDs and them thing there, bro. Because although, you know, going out there and enjoying yourselves and having a good time, there is still a risk out there, and it's a bit of a madness right now. Now, the other side is that many others were in bed preparing for work, either from home, sitting like me, you know, in somewhere in their house doing their daily work, or putting a mask on and getting on the train or public transport, going into the office this morning. So there's a wide mix of people that are doing all different things. Now, Boris the Bumberhole was on TV this afternoon alluding to a fourth lockdown. My man's just released the lockdown and he's already alluding to another one, bruv. Trust me, the guy's mad. But he did spend most of his time trying to justify today's releasing of all restrictions. And at the same time, he's talking about COVID passports and people having to have both the jabs to be able to get into venues. And I just think that the whole thing, he's trying to distract you while numbers are rising in regards to cases, deaths, hospitalizations. The easing of lockdown rules have happened today. It seems that he's also trying to make you think about other things that don't really affect you right now, rather than just trying to help everyone get access to the vaccination who wants the access, and making sure that everyone's safe, making sure that the NHS has got the money it needs. He's like, you can't go clubbing without this. And when there's a level of inequality there is in this country, I get annoyed. But one thing that did make me very happy is that it kind of serves him right, him and Rishi having to be in their isolation, giving their handling of the whole thing over the last 18 months. It's like on the day that everyone else gets to go out and hug each other, them guys have to stay in locked up on their own. I like that vibe. Did you see his video on Twitter where he was trying to like say that he was on some special daily testing trial but they weren't going to do it, but they are going to do it? Nah, bro, you were just trying to bend the rules. Like, that is what you do. And that's the thing with these guys. Like, you ain't even breezy about it. Like, you just lie. Like, oh, seriously. Like, oh, so first, in our first story today, over in Open Democracy, Adam Ramsey has been explaining perfectly why we must have transparency in political funding. Now, I think that's a perfect example, really, when it comes to what's going on with these guys, because these politicians, they lie about so much. They don't have an actual filter in their minds to help them define the truth and the lies. There's that old saying, if you say a lie enough times, it becomes a truth. I think these guys have got to the point where they've lied so much, they don't know the difference. Everything is a dodgy backhand here or not quite the truth there. It's all mixed up, it's all muddy, and it's not clear. If we can't trust them on where they get their money from, then how can we trust them with anything else they do? For example, trying to protect us during a pandemic. Because let's be honest, the last 18 months has been more of a pocket filler for them than an actual protection for us. Now, over £2.6 million has been accepted by Tories since Boris became Prime Minister 2 years ago. And there are multiple groups making very large donations into the Conservative Party and using this advantage to basically create their own commercial gains in what they're doing. And the easing of restrictions today has nothing to do with really your freedom if you look into it, because it's not got anything to do with you, actually. It's just the financial interests of the elite, the millionaires and billionaires of the world. That's exactly what's going on. It's not good, and big up Open Democracy for baiting up the ting on them guys, because it needs to be done. Now over to a group of people trying to do right by the world, and Steve Topple has covered the recent event run by the Peace and Justice Project, where they set their stall out for taking on global arms sales. In association with Egypt Watch, the coalition are looking to take on the $2 trillion, $2 trillion, like I'm like billion normally, yeah, this is a trillion, $2 trillion dollars of arms sales globally every year. That's just imagine what we could do in terms of world hunger if we spent that money on, you know, feeding people and bringing people out of poverty. But no, they're spending that money on bombing schools. And well, these bombs have been dropped on, like I say, schools, hospitals, communities all over the world, in places where, to be fair, they could probably do with some help in leveling out the books and that, and taking away some of the inequality. And you know, it's not been to really help anyone. It's all been in the interests of the rich for oil or political gain. You know, this event that happened over the weekend is a small glimmer of hope in a dark place. And to see this kind of activity happening, just it fills you with that little glimmer that there are people in this world that are willing to fight for the people that haven't got the ability to fight for themselves. Big up Steve, big up the Canary for covering this historic event. I definitely think it was a historic event, and I am so excited to see what the Peace and Justice Project are going to do moving forward in regards to taking on arms sales. Now over to the Mancunian family at the Meteor now, because Alexandria Slater has been looking at Manchester doctors' surgeries that have been refusing to register migrants against NHS guidelines. The investigation, originally carried out by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, see how I said that perfectly, I've been practicing, across the UK, was set out to see if surgeries across the UK would register a dummy patient aged 40 and named Rosa, who has no ID. Now, the meteor raised concerns about people having access to the COVID vaccination, alongside many other issues, and the fact the NHS have not made this a requirement. Now, I definitely feel like we're slowly moving deeper into a world with an unimaginable divide between the rich and the poor, those who are vaccinated and those who aren't, those who can afford ID and those who can't. You get where I'm going. Now, on the point of the vaccine, and in this article, there have been many councils up and down the country that have been running pop-up vaccination centers to help undocumented people get access to the vaccine. But not everyone can get to them and can get access to them. It's a sad state of affairs, really, where the privatization of the NHS hasn't fully gone through, but there are doctors' surgeries that are, to a point, refusing people access to healthcare because of a document that they may not be able to actually afford or get their hands on. Let's be honest, healthcare, everyone should have the basic access to healthcare. And this vaccination, I've said it before on this show, I definitely think that everyone should have a choice whether they should be able to get the vaccine or not. One point that I really liked in the article, one of the people they spoke to was Dr. Gurdasani, who said, as long as these groups are marginalized, they remain vulnerable. And in a pandemic, we're not protected unless everyone has equitable access to the vaccination and testing and healthcare. I just think I couldn't have said it better myself. And this is what we really need to look at. And we need to start challenging these doctor surgeries or healthcare centers where people are being marginalized or sent outside, not being allowed in, simply because of a document that really is there to help keep the system going into a world of capitalism. Big up the guys at the Meteor. Really appreciate you guys doing the work you're doing, looking into it. Obviously, there's a little sideline to the Bureau of Investigative Journalism there, the work they've done, but the Meteor have really gone into detail. They've spoken to loads of doctors, healthcare workers, and professionals in regards to what can be done to challenge these doctor surgeries. So make sure you do check that one out, guys. Now, the part of my day I've been looking forward to, I cannot wait for my Monday night when I get to chill out on the airwaves, on the intranet with the one and only, it is Klaudia Fior. What with the thing, fam? How are we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm all the better for seeing you, fam. Keeping it real on a straight brizzy dizzy. Wait, it looks like the weather's good where you are. Where are you? Are you still in Portugal or?
No, I'm in London.
You're in London?
Canary Wharf.
London never looks so good till you're about, fam. Trust me.
I told you, I brought the sun back. I brought the sun back with me.
Come on. How's the nails? They looking good?
That one's nearly falling off, but I've got glue.
Oh.
It's all right. I've got glue.
It's all right. It's all right. There's more nails in the world. Don't worry.
I'm gonna get better ones next time.
So, what are you saying about Freedom Day? Was you out at midnight last night? Was you doing a mad thing?
No, I wasn't. The purpose I went was walking my dog, if anything.
Have you been out hugging people and doing everything that you couldn't do 2 weeks ago or even yesterday?
No. I kind of like my personal space. Do you know what I mean? Even when I was coming back from Portugal and I got back on the underground, I was just like, there is way too many people here. I was just like, stay away. Like, I wanted to almost put my arms out and spin around to show people my boundary of how close they can come. I was going to end up slapping a lot of people.
It is a bit mad because I got on a train not long ago just to go on a short journey, and it was just empty. There was no one on the train, and I was like, oh, this is really nice, because the last time I got on that particular train was before COVID, and it was packed out, man. It was March 2020, and it was so packed. I remember I was on the way to work that morning, and it was unbelievable. But then an hour into work, I had a cough, and it wasn't COVID, but I had a cough. And because of all the mixed messages before the lockdown happened, the manager in the office, he was like, do you want to work from home? Because there was no test.
Do you want to leave?
Yeah, there was no tests or anything. In fairness, he had a baby. I was like, bruv, I smoke. But there was that fear. And now people have still got that fear, but I feel like people have just kind of gone,
No, at one point with COVID, I just wanted to get a sticker that says I don't have COVID, I just smoke. Do you know what I mean? I was like, because people look at me way too much. I was like, I promise, I've just smoked. That is why I'm coughing. But talking of Freedom Day, I've actually picked a story from one of our independent media
Go
partners.
for it.
So we have got, where is it? Right. So it's not Freedom Day for refugees as Priti Patel's immigration bill returns to Parliament. So I have picked this story because everyone's obviously going to be very focused on the excitement of us coming out of lockdown. And they're not going to pay attention to the fact that Priti Patel's, I'm going to call it the anti-immigration bill because I think it's very anti-immigration. Is going back into Parliament today. So the national it's called the Nationality and Borders Bill. I just think it's very ironic because it clearly shows that there is no freedom for asylum seekers in this country, and it's criminalizing people who are just looking for a safe place to go. And what's very interesting about the article points out is that the new bill increases the length of time you would spend in prison for crossing the border in ways that are considered inappropriate or illegal. It's gone up from 6 months in prison to 4 years. And I just don't really understand how I'm pretty sure you can do far worse crimes in this country and not get up to 4 years in prison. So it just really it's ridiculous considering the fact that it is coming from a descendant of immigrants. Priti Patel is a descendant from immigrants, and she is literally implementing laws that are anti-immigration. And I don't understand it. And I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to it because everyone's obviously going to be celebrating the fact that we're coming out of lockdown. And I just feel like it's almost a distraction tactic to have this be pushed through Parliament at the same time as we're coming out of lockdown, because there has been quite a lot of backlash from young people on social media to like Priti Patel's anti-immigration policies.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's definitely a distraction tactic. There's, like I mentioned before, there's people protesting outside of Parliament about lockdown stuff and everything. And, no one's looking at the most vulnerable, the most marginalized in our communities, the hidden voices, the people that don't have documents and can't get access to vaccines or healthcare. Many of the things I've already spoken about add on to that. What you're saying there, you're spot on. As someone who's biracial with some Asian heritage, we disown her. She's not one of ours.
I don't think it's gonna be like, have you seen those videos where different community, like different races pass someone off to each other? They're like, on behalf of the black community, we don't own them, and then they pass it off. They're like, we're passing them to the white community, and then they get disowned by anyway. That's Priti Patel. If you can't pass her off to anyone because no one wants her. Do you know what I mean?
There's a special community. I don't know what it's called, but the current members are Katie Hopkins, Nigel Farage, and Stephen Yaxley, Tommy Robinson, Lennon. they're the current main perpetrators of that community, and they would more than willingly accept Priti into their ranks.
100%.
Oh my days! Oh yeah, and what's the other one? Jada Franson. They're the most bad names I'll ever say on this channel. Let's move on to the next story.
Please, because I'm fed up. Priti Patel is just a horrible person. Right, so the next story we have got is by our good old friends Violin Times. School pupils face sanctions for supporting Palestine.
What?
Yeah, so I'd actually seen before this story, a lot of things going around on social media when the Israeli attacks on Palestine were happening. I'm going to say it as it is. I'm not going to call it in conflict because it's not a conflict. So yeah, when that was happening, I did see a lot of young students coming forward on social media saying that they were told off for openly supporting Palestine or like wearing Palestine badges and stuff like that. But it was just something that I didn't think was going to get picked up by anyone. And a couple months down the line, Bywire Times have picked up on it. And I just think it's just a very clear sign of how racism is installed into our institutions, because I'm sure there are certain causes that obviously favor white people that students could openly support in school without anyone saying anything. And the reason that they so this research organization Cage found that since May this year, 49 cases of students being like basically warned or like suspended or getting in trouble for openly supporting Palestine had occurred, and every single one of those cases the child was Muslim. So do you know what I mean? It's just like it's like a slap in the face. It's right there on paper, and it's what's also very interesting about this is the fact that they, in every single case, they were basically they got in trouble because what they were doing was considered to be too political. Now, what's going on in Palestine isn't political; it's a crime against human rights. It's a human rights violation. It's not anything political. That's not what you should look at. Is if a young child looks at what's going on and sees the images of what's happening in Palestine, that's just basic human empathy. If you want to support something like that, I mean,
also, what's wrong with a student, a child, young person being political? Like, isn't that a part of what schools are meant to be teaching kids? What's going on in the world?
This is the next point that I have. Obviously, even though
sorry, go on.
It's all right. It's talk. Otherwise, I'm gonna just talk the whole time. Education Secretary Gavin Williamson, that is the guy, right? Yeah, Gavin Williamson. He's all like, oh yeah, I want to support free speech because cancel culture is like basically diminishing free speech in our schools and in our universities, this, that, and the other. But yet, do you know what I mean? If you're supporting free speech, this is free speech. And I'm sure that the only time they're going to pull the free speech card is if someone actually uses hate speech towards a person of color, and then they're going to be like, no, sorry, that was free speech. Or if they use hate speech towards a member of the LGBTQ community, and then someone's going to be like, no, sorry, that was free speech. But in a case where they're supporting something like Palestine or something like the Black Lives Matter movement, then it's considered to be too political.
Bit like GB News at the moment, isn't it? Less said about that one. No, do you know what? I know a few young people over the last few years who have been in trouble for talking about the climate, the climate crisis. One who lived near a fracking site or an attempted fracking site, and that student got in trouble and they got told not to do things simply because they were saying, look, I don't want fracking happening down the road from where I live, where I go to school, and in my environment. I just don't want it happening. And there were earthquakes happening as it was happening, but the school were trying to shut them down. So given all of the culture wars that this government have been playing over the however long they've been doing it, and the stuff they're talking about, free speech in universities and all of that, again, there's a little bit of a while we do this here, hey, look over there, you know what I mean, the old biscuit thing, in it, rich man with 50 biscuits gives the worker one biscuit and says, hey, watch out for the migrant, he's gonna be teething your crumbs. And this is what they're doing. They're trying to make you think that racism isn't a problem, but really they're pushing the racism in. I suppose it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the show, really. You say a lie enough times, people believe it. That's where it's going.
I think with this story as well, what's interesting is the fact that, like, obviously the links that the UK has to Israel with arms sales and stuff like that. So the whole idea of a school demonizing, that's the word I'm looking for, demonizing Palestine, or making Palestine seem like, or making kids feel as if they shouldn't support Palestine, and making it more pro-Israel. It's kind of very symbolic of the fact that a lot of even the UK government is like, oh yeah, save Palestine, but we're like, yeah, Israel, here, have more arms. So yeah, that's the other point I wanted to add to that. Now, the last, would you want to say anything else before we move on to the next story?
No, bang on, sister, you keep going, man.
Right, so the last story we have got is open democracy yet again. The UK's reputation management industry is destroying journalism. It must be stopped. So the headline's very self-explanatory. It's basically the story outlines the blatant links between corruption and the UK media. But I think it's interesting because a lot of the time, I think in this show as well, like we kind of trash talk journalists in the mainstream media and stuff like that, because quite a lot of the time they don't hold power to account or tell the truth. But in instances where they do, for example, you get the odd few, or even primarily in independent media, where people try to like call out corruption in like specifically the financial sector and stuff like that, or in banks, they're met with slap lawsuits and can't proceed with the story because they financially can't
Yeah.
pay for their own defense. So basically, I'm just going to quickly explain what slap laws are. It's basically when, say, for example, a journalist or someone or a critic wants to expose someone for wrongdoing, they are burdened with the cost of legal defense until they give up, basically, because the legal costs are so high that they just can't afford to pay it. And the company that they're usually trying to go against has so much money that it's like just a scratch on their skin. It's nothing that can actually affect them severely. So I just think it's an interesting story.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think the people talk about freedom of the press, and then other people or other organizations then want freedom to do stuff that it's like, yeah, you should be free to do that, but you're using a tool that is only accessible by the rich and the elite, by big organizations, which is these slap lawsuits. And this is where, the other side of things, a lot of these kind of companies that will do this, they will be like what I was mentioning, was it Open Democracy, where there's 2.6 million pounds has been funded into the Tory party. Who's doing that? Is it the companies that might be behind these slap lawsuits where they're getting looked into? Have they made it so that the laws are in their favor so that they're able to put these lawsuits in place? But then when, let's say, a journalist like yourself, let's say, you're looking into something, you haven't got any access to legal funding. There's no funding for you from the government. Meanwhile, these big companies, they're still getting subsidiaries just to run their business, let alone to take you to court because you found out that they are illegit companies. It's unbelievable. And without that kind of money, what we need to do is really, in my opinion, is remove the money from these kind of things, and start making it so that, legal justice is available to everyone, just like, well, the NHS should be, just access, access at the point of needs. It should be the same for legal justice, in my opinion. So many journalists get stopped. So many stories don't get written until many years later when, there's nothing you can do about it. What's done has been done.
I think a really good quote that I took from this story was the people suing journalists in the UK rely on these huge legal bills being so intimidating that the journalists won't even try to defend themselves. And it's just a very easy summary of what essentially happens. And another point that I think the story makes is that we need to consider the influence that because a lot of these large companies aren't actually UK companies. They're from somewhere abroad. They're foreign investors and stuff like that. And it brings attention to the fact that we need to, as a country, we need to take into consideration the influence that these foreign powers have on UK journalists' abilities to report on public affairs that in our own country. It's almost like the same way that they don't pay taxes. You know what I mean, it's like, why do they have so much influence here?
Boy, you couldn't have said it. I couldn't have said it better myself. You bang on the money there. I think a lot of the stuff that we look into on this show kind of focuses around the same kind of points and the same kind of issues. And there's a lot of these things that need to be fixed, which is why, we spoke earlier, the Canary covered the Peace and Justice Project. They're properly looking into these issues. Big up all the guys at the Peace and Justice Project, because they're looking into exactly these things that we're talking about, and they're looking at ways in which we can overcome them, we can take them down. So all power to them guys doing what they're doing. So Klaudia, tonight, first day of freedom, what are you doing?
I'm going to bed. I'm gonna watch something on Netflix and I'm going to bed.
Do you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go over the shop. I'm gonna buy me some ice cream. I'm gonna bang in some CBD oil, and I'm gonna sit and enjoy the nice cool breeze that's coming through my window.
I've got tiramisu in the fridge. I'm gonna.
Come on, listen, guys. Whatever you guys out there are doing tonight on your first day of freedom, like I said before, there's a chance there might be another lockdown soon. So do what you can to enjoy yourselves.
You're gonna get blamed for it. If there's another lockdown, we're all gonna get blamed for it. It's gonna be our fault. It's gonna be
exactly.
Our fault.
Look after yourselves. Some people want to wear a mask. Some people don't want to wear a mask. It is absolutely fine. Whatever you want to do, just respect other people. And remember, it was last year that it came out. There was everyone was putting it on Instagram and all other social media platforms. Be kind. Just be kind. The weather's hot. No one needs to get in an argument. No one needs to be shouting. And it's me. It's me saying this to you. Don't argue with the police. Just let them get on with their business. So long as they ain't in your face, just be happy. Enjoy the nice weather. Enjoy the good times. Enjoy the good vibes. Don't forget to subscribe. If you can, hit up bywire.news and hit donate. You could even give us just $5. But I tell you what, tomorrow I'm going to be live at 9. I can't believe I carried that off for so long.
Before the show, he had loads as well. He's on fire today, guys.
Hey, come on. Yeah, I'm hot, fam. I'm hot. I'm really, really hot. And this is On the Bywire. Dano. Big up the people. It is what it is. We see you guys soon. Peace and love, my people.